So Pete Ingram's deck, pretty straightforward. He has Charlotte's Agent, he has the Tarmogoyf, he has Abrupt Decay, he has Deathrite Shaman, Force of Will, Thoughtseize, Pulse, Hemta Torok, Brainstorm, Visions, Jace the Mind Sculptor, pretty much everything you would really expect from a Charlotte's bug deck. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy.
Right, on the other side of the table, Chris VanMeter.
Oh, I spoke too soon.
What do you see?
All right, I see in his lands 2 breeding pools. So it looks like someone didn't get their check yet from Grandpa Miami and invest back at the Legacy to get that Tropical Island. I'm not too sure, but breeding pool, Tropical Island, not that much of a difference here, but I would much rather play Tropical Island.
Yeah, not really. Hopefully we can get a shot of Pete's face when he fetches up his breeding pools.
Yeah, maybe.
Actually, maybe even better, Chris VanMeter's face.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Lots of times Legacy is very expensive, so it's difficult to get all the cards you want, but because the community is so nice, people lend out cards, people lend out decks. So if you ask around a bunch and, make enough nice friends, I'm sure you could get almost any card for the most part.
For sure. The sense of community really makes itself known, especially in Legacy, where you can show up to a tournament, and if you've been nice enough to lend cards to other people, hopefully they'll return the favor and lend cards to you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Pete probably wanted to get a Trop Island right there, but didn't want to, show everybody. So we'll see what happens. The other thing is that lots of times dual lands get played so much that you could pick up the really beat dual lands for almost 50% of what they're actually worth.
Right. So. Yeah. Baleful Strix comes down for Pete Ingram. If you don't know the Strix, I don't blame you. It hasn't ever been printed in a standard legal set, but it's blue-black for a 1/1, flying Death Touch, comes into play, draw card. So really powerful creature right there.
Yeah, all right, so Chris plays his own Deathrite Shaman. So when there's dueling Deathrite Shamans in play, do you have any specific strategy? Or do you just kind of play out the game and see what happens?
Yeah, it really depends who's on the back foot. You can use it to try and burn out your opponent, but then your opponent can use the green ability to gain some life. So those 2 abilities negate each other pretty well. It's usually about the mana advantage.
Okay, so there's a main phase Brainstorm from Pete Ingram. We're going to see a Thoughtseize, we're going to see a Force of Will, and we're going to see a Goyf. I think Pete's #1 priority here is to probably get down Goyf and then handle Chris's Deathrite Shaman. Maybe it's handle the Deathrite Shaman first and then get down Goyf?
I think so. Deathrite is so important, especially when both players have one and there's a limited amount of fodder for it.
Yeah, and now, in the back of Pete's mind, he knows in just 3 turns, he's going to pretty much refill his hand from that Ancestral Visions.
Right, so he's not going to really have a big problem Force of Willing a card, even when he's only have, say, 2, 3, 4 cards in hand. He's going to try and use that Force of Will pretty aggressively, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. Now, most of the time, you obviously want to play Charlotte's Agent into Visions, but suspending Visions on turn 1 or turn 2 against anything but a really fast burn deck or combo deck is usually fine.
Right.
All right, so there's a Thoughtseize. So let's see what's up in Chris's hands. I do see a Brainstorm. I think Chris is thinking, should I crack my fetch land and brainstorm and hide some good stuff, or what, Yeah,
I think he might think that the fetch land is more valuable. His hand is really good. So since it's so good, he's just going to let it be revealed. He has Brainstorm, Geist, 2 Liliana. I thought that Karakas was a Stoneforge Mystic. Makes the hand a little less good. But.
Yeah, the one thing I don't really like about the Deathblade deck, the Esper Deathblade deck, is that it's very reliant on Deathrite Shaman. And if you look at the hand, it's Geist, which is white-blue, colorless, so it's 3 mana.
Right, he's a Bayou in play.
Yeah, exactly, and he has a Bayou in play. Liliana, 3 mana again, black requirement mana.
4 Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, so it is really mana hungry, and lots of times I feel they don't play enough lands. Most Esper Deathblade decks play about 23 lands, and they're also playing Wasteland for the most part. So you're playing Wasteland, you're playing all these sack lands, you're playing so many different colored duels that I feel you would want to play more land.
Right, and everyone else is playing Wasteland too. You can't forget about that.
Exactly. You know what? I was on Esper Deathblade for a while. I had some moderate success with it, but I believe for the Invitational I would not be playing Esper Deathblade. I kind of fell off the Esper Deathblade wagon. I traded for all the cards. I was like, yeah, this is my deck. But after playing with it, I'm not the biggest fan.
Right. So Pete selects Brainstorm. He doesn't want Chris to be able to put one of those Lilianas back to sculpt his hand.
Exactly.
I guess he has a plan for that Geist of St. Trapp. He might be Force of Willing.
Yeah, maybe, but he also has a blocker in play with the the Baleful Strix.
Right.
You know, it's a 1/1 death touch. You can just trade with the Geist. So Chris is going to have to get rid of the Baleful Strix before Geist can actually start getting in there. I think Geist was kind of the big breakout tournament, the big breakout card last tournament, where players had started to cut Dark Confidant for Geist Sustained Draft. But I'm not too sure how good Geist Sustained Draft really is in a field full of all these creature decks. There's still Maverick decks running around. Even Charlotte's Bug has many creatures to handle Geist Sustained Draft.
Right, and Tarmogoyf added for Pete Ingram after the attack, and it's yeah, this is looking really good for Pete Ingram. He has all the board pressure. He's ahead on lands. He's going to be ahead on cards if that Ancestral Vision is resolved. But
And I'm pretty sure it will.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't see anything Chris can really do to it, and the game won't end in the next 3 turns or the next 2 turns
Right,
or whatnot.
that's really the only way that Chris has to interact with the Ancestral Visions. This deck, of course, not playing Force of Will. There's just no room.
All right, so Pete shows Force of Will and Brainstorm. I think if I'm Chris here, I probably would want to just take the Brainstorm.
Yeah, leaving just a naked Force of Will is pretty good. Pete would have to draw a blue card to counter it, and that means he's not playing the blue card. He's not playing the Brainstorm. He's not playing the Ponder.
Exactly.
Or whatever it might be.
Yeah, now, what do you think Chris's line of play is here? Do you think he's going to try to get down Liliana, or do you think Liliana's not going to do too much?
Liliana's pretty bad right now. You know, if he -2s it, Peter will just sack the 1/1 Death Touch. That's already gotten all the value it needs.
Do you think there's any argument to +1 it? To get rid of his entire hand?
Pete's hand is really useless right now. It's only Force of Will. I don't know. I think Chris VanMeter's plan, honestly, is to draw Brainstorm, because that's one of the only things that can fix his hand right now.
Sure. All right, there's Caracas. He's going to sacrifice that Marsh Flats. And let's see what he fetches up. Probably Underground Sea is my guess.
Yeah, Chris needs
exactly
a blue source.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. He wants a blue source other than Deathrite Shaman, because Deathrite Shaman is not always a mana producer.
Right. As we can see here, there are only 2 lands left in the graveyard.
Yeah.
So if Pete wants that card to not be a mana fixer, it won't be in a couple short turns.
All right. So it's either going to be Liliana or Geist. I can't really see any other line here.
Yeah, that's really all he has available. Both are really useless. It might just be Liliana, get rid of the Baleful Strix, and then the next Liliana will hopefully be a little better.
Yeah, all right. So it is the Baleful Strix that Peter sacrifices. The visions will tick down to 2 right here. Pete will draw for his turn. Yeah, we're going to get the big dice so everyone can see. All right.
I don't think Liliana's too long for this world.
All right. So looks like the Goyf is a 5/6 because it's an artifact now as well. Baleful Strix is a creature, also an artifact.
Right. So what did Pete draw? Is that a Shardless?
No, it's a breeding pool, I believe.
Oh, okay. That's why I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, he's trying to hide it from. We'll see if it actually is a breeding pool. I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like a gate crash one.
Yeah. So he's surveying the board. This actually makes sense now because Calcano's Facebook status was, does anybody have 2 tropical islands? And I was wondering, I was like, oh, I'm giving Calcano my deck. Why would he need tropical islands? So this makes perfect sense. He was trying to help out Pete. What line do you think Pete should do here? Does he want to get rid of that Liliana? Does he not care about the Liliana?
It's tough. He has to not use his Deathrite Shaman to keep the Liliana around, and with that borderline useless Force of Will in his hand, he might just let the Liliana stay in play.
Yeah, it's because he knows Chris has another Liliana, right? So he doesn't want to kill Liliana and then Chris replays Liliana and make you sacrifice.
Right.
He wants Chris have to waste a turn +1ing it. Pete will just discard the breeding pool and everything will be fine.
Exactly. Both of Pete's cards he doesn't really care about. Whichever one he cares more or he cares less about, he'll discard. Looks like the breeding pool.
Yep. And the Vision's on 2, so that's something Pete could really look forward to. Kind of like Christmas, right? You're a kid.
It's so close.
It's December
it's so
22nd,
close.
so close.
Oh, a Ponder from CVM. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I wouldn't say really good.
I think the card he most wanted to draw was like a blue card, a Brainstorm or a Ponder here.
Yeah, I guess Ponder digs him a bit deeper.
And he does have that fetch land, too.
He'll probably just pitch his other Liliana. All right, there's a breeding pool. We'll see if Chris is going to follow it up with a Ponder here. So now
Wow.
it's a 6/7 to go.
Look at that, 6/7. We need an enchantment and we need a tribal.
Yeah, that's 8/9. That's it. All right, here comes the Ponder from Chris that he just drew this turn. So he'll look 1, 2, 3. I see a Jace and a Stoneforge. Stoneforge is probably the more important one here.
Yeah, Chris, this is a really good ponder. I would say most of the time, Chris would be shuffling 2 of these cards away, but he might not shuffle yet. He might keep both of these.
Do you think he wants to just maybe drop Jace, bounce Tarmogoyf? He knows that Pete only has a Forcible in his hand with no other cards.
Yeah, that would be pretty good, and also the visions won't be resolving for quite a while. It's not like it's resolving next turn. So
yeah, it has to wait 2 turns.
Right.
So maybe his line is, maybe Chris is thinking, okay, I'm going to leave Jace and on top, then I'm going to draw it from the ponder. I'm going to then play Marsh Flats, sacrifice it, play Jace, bounce Tarmogoyf, and I'll have a Liliana at 2, and I'll have a Jace at 2.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. I think that'll probably be his line. I think he's wondering if he can somehow keep both Stoneforge and Jace.
Yeah, it's kind of risky because he knows that the Visions is going off. He doesn't care about the Forcible at all because Liliana next turn, even if Pete, say, were to draw a blue card,
right.
Pete draws a Ponder or whatnot, any random blue card, a Visions. Chris, before he plays anything, you just go +1. You discard one of those cards.
Wow, CVM
shuffling.
I wonder what he's looking for here.
That's interesting.
Is he looking for Swords to Plowshares? That's like the only unique effect that he hasn't seen.
Well, the thing is that the reason why he doesn't want the Jace is because he can't actually cast it this turn. His opponent could just respond to the activation of Deathray Shaman with his Deathray Shaman.
Right.
But why not Stoneforge Mystic, or why not wait a turn for Jace?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's trying to draw into. I guess just a removal spell.
It's a Stoneforge anyway.
Okay.
So that was kind of a spin the wheel. I think Stoneforge was probably his best draw there anyway.
Yeah, that's an odd shuffle.
Yeah.
He could have easily just drawn a useless card, Hymn to Torok, a Thoughtseize, another Geist, another Liliana, another Jace. I don't know.
All right, but I mean, Chris is very experienced in Legacy.
Yeah, I would like to ask him his opinion on that after the match.
Yeah, so he's going to fetch up the Batterskull here, and he will probably just pass the turn here. Nothing else really to be done.
Yep,
So-
he's played his land. He's used his Liliana. He has the Deathrite Shaman if he needs it.
I like how the judge just threw over a germ token. I mean, the Batterskull's not even in play yet.
Here you go, Chris. Put this in your hand.
Yeah, don't forget your trigger. And Chris will pass the turn. So is Pete going to use that Deathrite Shaman at the end of Chris's turn, or no?
I don't see why not. Clear out Chris's graveyard a little bit. Drain him for 2.
All right, now is Chris going to respond with his own Deathrite Shaman, or just let that happen?
I don't think so. I think the fetch land is a little too valuable. The threat of Deathrite Shaman is a little too valuable.
Okay,
I'm not sure, though. Chris is a better Deathblade player than I am.
Yeah, interesting ponder there for sure.
A lot of the top players in the room are playing Deathblade. We have a partial breakdown. BBD, your friend Rudy, Calcano, Shields, Costa, a lot of Deathblade players. CVM, of course.
Yeah, Deathblade is just all over the place. As long as I can have access to the cards that I want for the Invitational, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be on Deathblade and be on something else. I think Deathrite or Deathblade is definitely a strong deck, but it could be, breaking down and just kind of not destroyed, but it kind of had its success where people were not that ready for it and didn't really realize the power of it. So he's tanking on this Marsh Flats. I think he would want another blue. Does that make sense?
He has 4 Jaces in his deck for game 1. I'm not sure what he needs the double white for. Maybe he's trying to play around any potential wastelands from Pete Ingram.
Yeah, exactly. And
wow,
he looks like he might want, like, maybe if he's going to draw a land, he wants to go Geist, and he's able to Stoneforge in the Batterskull.
Right. Does he have a Tundra in his deck? He has 2 Tundras in his deck.
Yeah, well,
triple black.
The problem is that Tundra doesn't help with the Deathrite activation this turn.
I see. Right. Because he's responding for the Deathrite.
Yeah, because he's responding to
Pete's
Deathrite. So, and I guess that was the main reason why he didn't want to get that Jace. He knew that Jace couldn't come out this turn, but I'm still surprised he didn't go Stoneforge and then shuffled anyway.
Right.
All right, so Pete draws another Deathrite Shaman, it looks like.
Interesting. With Chris VanMeter at 10, those Deathrites could really do some work. CVM, of course, has the Batterskull to gain the life back, but if Pete could deal with that Batterskull in any way, The death rights would make pretty quick work of
And
him.
I'm pretty sure he will be able to because the visions will go off next turn. Next turn he'll be able to draw into 4 new cards. He still has 4 abrupt decays left in his deck. He has access to Maelstrom Pulse as well, and other card draw spells like Charlotte's Agent himself.
Right, and if he can kill the Germ Token, force the bounce, kill the Stoneforge Mystic, the 5-mana Batterskull will be easily counterable by that Force of Will.
Now, I think Pete would want to just swing in with the Goyf and go directly at VanMeter's face. He doesn't really care about the Liliana quite yet. I think for the most part, for the rest of the game, he probably won't care about the Liliana.
Yeah, not really. As long as Chris doesn't gain too much life off the Batterskull, he'll be swinging at Chris's face.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Batterskull is either going to do a lot or do nothing, but I would say over 90% of the time, it will do nothing.
Yeah, if the Batterskull hits even once, Pete will have to care about that Liliana, but I doubt it will. That Ancestral is... drawing 3 cards, it was pretty good in Modern, was pretty good in Extended. It's insane in Legacy, because the cards are just so powerful.
Yeah. In Vintage, you get to play Recall instead, so... Yep. Pete's really tanking on this one. You know, lots of time Legacy is really complex, like we said before, so players will take extra time, make sure they're not making any obvious mistakes here.
Yeah, this game 1 is about 6-ish turns into the game, 5 turns into the game, something like that, and we're
almost 20 minutes.
17 minutes, yeah. Crazy.
All right, so it looks like Goyf's going straight at CVM. I think Chris doesn't want to take this damage, but he doesn't want to lose Stoneforge Mystic, so he's really at a tough spot here.
Right, I mean, he's effectively at 2 life, because if Pete wants to, he can crack that Deathrite Shaman during his own main phase while Chris's is tapped, so Chris is effectively at 2 life.
Yeah, and Chris doesn't know that Pete has a second Deathrite Shaman in hand.
Right.
All right, so Chris is going out to 4, it looks like. And there's another Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, Chris doesn't like that.
Yeah.
See him flipping his cards there. The Batterskull might not even have time to do anything.
Exactly. I think if I'm Pete, I just use a Deathrite right there.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not too sure why he's passing. I guess he wants to cut Chris off on 1 mana. But I would rather just have Chris at 2. Oh, Chris draws his Deathrite Shaman. That could help a little.
It could, but I don't think it'll help enough. I think Chris is dead.
You think so? We'll see how the game plays out.
It depends what Pete sacks off this Liliana. He
sacks the Goyf.
Sacked the Goyf.
Yeah, definitely right decision there. He knows that if he's going to win this game, he's going to be on Deathrite Shamans and not the Goyf anymore.
Right.
Especially with him having the knowledge that Chris has Batterskull. The last thing he wants to do is attack with Goyf, have Chris, pretty much flash in Batterskull and have him gain some life.
So all Chris has is a Deathrite Shaman. He can't afford to play the Geist.
All right, so Pete's going to say, I'll remove my Brainstorm or your Brainstorm or your Thoughtseize. And I think Chris realizes that this is going to be it right here.
Right, as soon as Pete untaps, the Ancestral Visions doesn't even need to resolve. Pete could even upkeep, remove with Deathrights, and the game should be over at that point.
Yeah, so Chris just taking his time, which is fine, but then again, you have to remember, Legacy does take a long time.
Yeah, this was a 20-minute game 1, and it only went 5 turns.
Yeah, nothing really that crazy happened. It was just a lot of thinking, a lot of shuffling, a lot of, hey, what's my opponent going to do? What am I going to do? So we'll see how things play out.
Yeah.
So now let's go to the sideboard. All right. So we'll start with Pete. Pete's playing Charlotte's Bug. He's to the left. He's up a game. All right. A couple of options he has. He has Thoughtseize. He has Pulse. He has Moorhem to Torok, Liliana, Forcible, Soul of Temptation. Now, Soul of Temptation is a card that mainly comes in against a show and tell type deck that's relying on, say, Emrakul. You show and tell. Your opponent plays show and tell. They'll put in an Emrakul. You'll put Sower in face down. It will flip. You'll be able to steal the Emrakul on your side. Notion Thief, a couple more Baleful Strixes, and finally the